Hello everyone, welcome again to another video. For those of you who have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to support the channel. So this video is about what the former Prime Minister of Grenada said in the 1980s, shortly before he was overthrown. He was a revolutionary. So he was Prime Minister from 1979 till 1983. So I'm not saying he was an exceptional leader, although he had some achievements. But what he's saying in this video is about the hypocrisy of Western leaders.
How do we evaluate other sides of the report? Like when they say that Grenada violates human rights. When they say to us, how come you have detainees? What about the press? What about elections? When they say to us, where are your elections? They don't turn around at the same time and say to their friends in South Africa, where are your elections?
Now, this is crucial. This is really, really fundamental for us to understand. Many Western countries, if not all of them, supported apartheid South Africa. So whether it was the US, Canada, UK, and other Western countries, the US and Western allies would call for elections in Grenada, but they never called for elections in South Africa. And we see this hypocrisy today, where the US would go to Africa and call African countries to democratize, but they will not say that about Saudi Arabia or Qatar, for example. They will not do that. And this is another thing he says. Listen to it.
When they say to us that elections must be held, and if you don't have elections, then you can't expect support. And unless you have elections, then we can't give you the normal treatment. We say, Salvador Allende of Chile. Salvador Allende of Chile was elected in September 1970 by the people of Chile. Allende did not take power through a revolution. Allende did not form a militia. Allende did not grab any land or property. Allende had no political detainees. Allende did not crush the press. He did not close down the parliament. He did not suspend the constitution. He played by every rule they wrote, but they killed him still.
Salvador Allende was president of Chile between 1978 and September 11, 1973. So he was democratically elected leader in Chile, but he was a socialist. So that means he socialized some institutions that were owned by Americans. And nationalization of institutions for many Western leaders that style themselves as capitalist do not like that. So even if it was good for the people in terms of service provision, in terms of making sure that services are provided to the people and people are taken care of, he was overthrown by an American-backed general. Many of you may know him, General Augusto Pinochet. He became the leader, brutalized Chilean, and his legacy still resonates today in Chile. And so one of the things Bishop is saying, if you say, okay, leaders that do not allow elections, or they arrest people, they brutalize their own people, they arrest political detainees, are bad people, and they should go. He's saying, okay, how about Allende? Allende did not arrest anyone. He was a man who wanted to do something good for his own people, but CIA overthrew him. So you can go on YouTube. There's a video about his last word. He was killed. He was killed on live television. The building was bombed when he was inside, and the world was watching. His last words were recorded. So Bishop goes on. I'm going to play you the rest of the video because he talks about the American Revolution. He talks about when America started to exercise elections, because many people just assume that if you have a revolution, and this is one of the things Bishop is saying, if you have a revolution, it takes time for the tenets for which you change the system to take roots. And if you want to transition from a revolutionary attitude to a conventional political system like democracy, then you need time. So that's why he's saying it took the United States a long time to transition from revolution to democracy. America did not exercise elections and democracy in 1776. They did not even have a constitution until 1787. So I'm not saying that Bishop was an exceptional leader who was free from atrocities that he committed against his own people or the detainees that were tortured. No, but he's saying this about hypocrisy in the West. Resonates today because of the hypocrisy in the West.
These people understand very well that a revolution means a new situation. Revolution means that the abuses and excesses of the violent, reactionary, and disruptive minority has to be crushed so that the majority interest can prevail. When the Americans had their revolution in 1776, it took them 13 years to call their election. They talk about detainees, but when the American Revolution came in 1776, 600,000 people were detained in this country. 100,000 Americans in the first week of the American Revolution, 100,000 fled to Canada. Thousands were locked up without charge or trial. Hundreds were shot. And the counter-revolutionaries after the American Revolution, they had no right to vote. They had no right to teach. They had no right to preach. They had no right to a job. Their land was confiscated without payment. So when the falsifiers of history try to pretend that the American Revolution was a Boston Tea Party, was a very bloody Tea Party. That's something that very often happens in all revolutions. The spontaneous upheaval of the masses did not really happen in Grenada. A church-based organization in Washington called Epica wrote a book last year on Grenada. They called it Grenada, the Peaceful Revolution. We can understand why. So when these elements come and make these statements, we understand only too well where they are coming from. They understand that in Grenada, no one is ever interfered with for what he says. No one is ever interfered with for what he writes. In fact, today, criticism is deeper than ever in the society in a constructive way. But our people also understand that the first law of the revolution is that a revolution must survive, must consolidate, so more benefits can come to them. And because of this fact, the revolution has laid down as a law that nobody, regardless of who you are, will be allowed to be involved in any activity surrounding the overthrow of the government by the use of armed violence. And anyone who moves in that direction will be ruthlessly crushed.